How many times have you heard someone say, or perhaps even said it yourself, "I get by on 6 hours of sleep just fine"? It's a common phrase in our society, often worn as a badge of honor, a sign of resilience or dedication. But I'm here today to tell you, with the full weight of scientific evidence behind me, that this statement is one of the most dangerous misconceptions about health, especially for anyone over the age of 55. That belief, while common, is fundamentally wrong. The latest, most robust scientific evidence is overwhelmingly clear. Routinely sleeping less than 6 hours is not a sign of toughness. It is a nightly, biological assault on your cardiovascular system, systematically increasing your risk of a heart attack or stroke with every single night of insufficient rest. This isn't a trade-off for more productivity. It's a dangerous gamble with your life and your independence. In this video, we will break down the 4 specific, scientifically proven ways that a lack of sleep silently attacks your heart and arteries, night after night. We will move beyond the simple feeling of tiredness and uncover the complex, damaging processes happening inside your body when it's deprived of the rest it critically needs. This isn't about fear. It's about giving you the critical knowledge to protect your health, your vitality, and your future. So please stay with me, because understanding these mechanisms is the first and most important step you can take to safeguard your heart. The 4 silent assaults on your cardiovascular system. Attack number 1, the nightly assault on your blood pressure. To understand the first attack, we need to talk about a natural, but vital rhythm your body is supposed to follow every night. It's a process called nocturnal dipping. In a healthy individual, when you fall into a deep, restful sleep, your heart rate slows down, your breathing becomes more regular, and your blood pressure should drop, or dip, by about 10 to 20% compared to your daytime levels. This nightly dip is not just a passive event. It's a crucial period of restoration for your entire cardiovascular system. It's the time when your heart and your blood vessels get a much-needed break from the constant pressures of the day. Think of it like this. During the day, your heart is working hard, pumping blood to keep you active. Nighttime is supposed to be its period of rest and repair. But when you consistently sleep for less than 6 hours, this vital process is severely disrupted. You rob your body of the time it needs to enter the deepest stages of sleep, where this blood pressure dip is most profound. As a result, your blood pressure stays elevated throughout the night, hour after hour. This forces your heart to continue working harder than it should. It's like forcing your heart to run a low-grade marathon every single night, with no finish line in sight. Imagine the strain on an engine that is never allowed to cool down. Over time, this relentless pressure begins to damage the delicate inner lining of your arteries, known as the endothelium. This damage makes your arteries stiffer and less flexible, a condition known as arteriosclerosis. The mechanism behind this involves your autonomic nervous system, the body's internal control center. Lack of sleep throws this system out of balance, keeping you in a state of low-level fight or flight. Your body is tricked into thinking it's under constant stress, so it continues to pump out hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. These stress hormones are notorious for constricting blood vessels and driving up blood pressure. So, instead of a peaceful nightly restoration, your cardiovascular system endures hours of sustained, high pressure. Research published in authoritative journals like the Journal of Hypertension has consistently shown this link. Studies following thousands of adults over many years have found that individuals who regularly sleep for 6 hours or less have a significantly higher risk of developing chronic high blood pressure or hypertension. And hypertension, as we know, is a primary risk factor for both heart attacks and strokes. This isn't a small effect. It's a direct, measurable, and highly damaging consequence of cutting your sleep short. The first attack is a relentless, nightly siege on your arteries, all because your body is denied its essential period of rest. Attack number 2. The cascade of chronic inflammation. The second way insufficient sleep attacks your heart is more insidious. It operates silently in the background, but its consequences are just as severe. This attack is chronic, low-grade inflammation. Now, inflammation itself isn't always bad. Acute inflammation is your body's healthy and necessary response to an injury or infection. If you cut your finger, the area becomes red and swollen because your immune system is sending healing cells to the site. That's a good thing. But chronic inflammation is different. Imagine a small, smoldering fire that never goes out, burning continuously inside your blood vessels. This is the kind of inflammation that lack of sleep promotes, and it is the #1 enemy of your arteries. Here's how it works. When your body is sleep-deprived, your immune system becomes dysregulated. It starts to overproduce inflammatory signaling molecules, called cytokines. Simultaneously, your liver is prompted to release a substance known as C-reactive protein, or CRP. Doctors often measure CRP levels in the blood as a direct marker of systemic inflammation. Countless studies have confirmed that people who are chronically sleep-deprived have significantly higher levels of these inflammatory markers circulating in their bloodstream. So, what does this smoldering fire do to your arteries? This constant state of inflammation damages the smooth, delicate lining of the blood vessels, the endothelium we mentioned earlier. This damage makes the artery walls rough and, more importantly, sticky. Now, think about cholesterol. We often hear about good HDL cholesterol and bad LDL cholesterol. Under normal, non-inflamed conditions, LDL cholesterol particles simply flow through your blood vessels without issue. But in an inflamed, sticky environment, these LDL particles are much more likely to get trapped in the artery wall. Once trapped, they can become oxidized, which triggers an even greater immune response. Your body sends white blood cells called macrophages to the site to clean up the oxidized LDL. But in this chronic inflammatory state, the macrophages consume so much cholesterol that they become bloated, turning into what are known as foam cells. These foam cells are the foundational building blocks of arterial plaque. Over years, these deposits of foam cells, cholesterol, and other cellular debris grow into larger plaques, a process called atherosclerosis. This is the very process that narrows and hardens your arteries. As these plaques grow, they can restrict blood flow to the heart, causing chest pain or angina. Even more dangerously, these plaques can become unstable. The surface can rupture, leading to the formation of a blood clot on the spot. If that clot completely blocks the artery, it cuts off blood flow to a section of the heart muscle, causing a heart attack. If it happens in an artery leading to the brain, it causes an ischemic stroke. So when we say lack of sleep promotes inflammation, what we are really saying is that it directly fuels the process of atherosclerosis. It's pouring gasoline on that smoldering fire inside your blood vessels, night after night, silently building the very plaques that could lead to a catastrophic cardiovascular event. Attack number 3, the blood sugar and stroke connection. The third attack vector is one that is often overlooked, but is critically important for brain health. This is the profound and surprisingly rapid connection between poor sleep, blood sugar control, and the risk of stroke. To maintain your energy, your body relies on a hormone called insulin. Insulin's job is to act like a key, unlocking your body's cells to allow glucose, or sugar, to enter from the bloodstream and be used for fuel. When this system works well, your cells are sensitive to insulin. However, lack of sleep throws a major wrench in this finely tuned machine. Remarkably, it doesn't take years of poor sleep to see an effect. According to data from the CDC and landmark studies in journals like the Lancet, just one single night of insufficient sleep can significantly reduce your body's insulin sensitivity. One study found that after just one night of sleeping only 4 hours, healthy young men experienced a 25% reduction in their insulin sensitivity. This means their cells became resistant to insulin's signal. When your cells become insulin resistant, the glucose can't easily get inside. It gets left behind in the bloodstream, causing your blood sugar levels to rise. Your pancreas then tries to compensate by pumping out even more insulin, leading to high levels of both sugar and insulin in the blood, a state that is highly damaging over time. Now, how does this relate to your arteries and stroke risk? High levels of circulating glucose are toxic to the lining of your blood vessels. You can think of excess sugar molecules as tiny, abrasive shards of glass, scraping and injuring the delicate endothelium of your arteries. This damage is particularly dangerous in the small, intricate blood vessels of the brain. This sugar-induced damage creates rough patches and inflammation, making it easier for clots to form. Furthermore, the state of insulin resistance itself is linked to other cardiovascular risk factors, including high blood pressure, high triglycerides, and low levels of the good HDL cholesterol. This cluster of conditions is known as metabolic syndrome, and it dramatically increases the risk of stroke. The American Stroke Association has clearly identified diabetes and poor blood sugar control as major risk factors for stroke. By disrupting your insulin sensitivity, even for a short period, lack of sleep pushes your body in that dangerous direction. So, every night you get less than 6 hours of sleep, you are not just waking up tired. You are actively compromising your body's ability to manage blood sugar, creating an internal environment that damages your blood vessels and significantly elevates your long-term risk of suffering a debilitating stroke. Attack number 4, the failure of the nightly cleanup crew. The fourth and final attack is about what doesn't happen when you don't sleep enough. It's the failure of a critical, nightly maintenance process that is essential for both brain and cardiovascular health. During the day, your brain and body are incredibly active, and this activity produces metabolic waste products, much like a busy factory produces trash. One of the most profound discoveries in neuroscience in the last decade is the identification of the glymphatic system. You can think of this as your brain's dedicated waste clearance system, a network of channels that piggybacks on blood vessels to flush out toxins. Here is the crucial part. This glymphatic system is primarily active when you are in the deepest stages of sleep. When you are awake, it's operating at a very low level. But during deep, non-REM sleep, your brain cells actually shrink slightly, widening the space between them and allowing cerebrospinal fluid to wash through and carry away accumulated waste. One of the most important waste products that the glymphatic system clears out is a protein called beta amyloid. Scientists have found that this is the same protein that clumps together to form the infamous plaques found in the brains of patients with Alzheimer's disease. While the link to neurodegenerative disease is frightening, the implications for cardiovascular health are just as serious. The failure to clear out metabolic waste doesn't just happen in the brain. Insufficient sleep hampers cellular repair mechanisms throughout the entire body. The waste products that build up, including free radicals and other inflammatory byproducts, contribute to a state of oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is essentially an imbalance that further damages cells, including the endothelial cells lining your arteries. It accelerates the aging process of your blood vessels and feeds into the cycle of chronic inflammation we discussed earlier. So, when you don't get enough deep sleep, you are essentially letting the nightly cleanup crew go on strike. The trash begins to pile up. Toxins and inflammatory waste that should have been flushed out remain in your system, creating a more toxic internal environment. This puts additional strain on your cardiovascular system, contributing to cellular damage and accelerating the very processes that lead to heart disease and stroke. This isn't just about feeling mentally foggy the next day. It's about the failure of a fundamental biological process of cleaning and repair, a failure that has cumulative and devastating effects on your heart and blood vessels over time. Conclusion: knowledge is power. So, to be absolutely clear, let's summarize these 4 attacks. Consistently sleeping less than 6 hours forces your blood pressure to stay high, denying your heart its essential nightly rest. It triggers a cascade of chronic, low-grade inflammation that clogs your arteries. It disrupts your blood sugar control, which directly increases your risk for stroke. And finally, it stops the vital nightly cleanup processes, allowing toxic waste to accumulate and damage your entire system. This isn't an opinion. This is the overwhelming consensus of modern medical science. And now, I want to ask you a question. Thinking back on your own life, have you noticed a connection between periods of poor sleep and how your body felt? Perhaps a time of high stress when sleep was poor, and you felt more aches, or your blood pressure was higher at your checkup. Share your experience in the comments below, as your story could help someone else recognize these warning signs in their own life. The connection is real, and hearing it from each other can be incredibly powerful. Ultimately, this information isn't about causing alarm. It's about empowerment. This is not just about feeling tired. It's about understanding that prioritizing your sleep is one of the most powerful, non-negotiable acts of self-preservation you can take for your heart health and your independence. Now that you understand the severe cardiovascular dangers of sleeping less than 6 hours, it's critical to identify the hidden habits that might be sabotaging your rest. In our very next video, we reveal the 5 common sleep killers that you might be doing every single night without even realizing it. Click the video on your screen right now to continue protecting your heart. Thank you for your time and attention today. The content in this video is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Always consult with your physician or a qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your treatment plan.